I want to have a reliable store of value for myself. I want to have, when the financial energy comes in on one side, I want to put this financial energy somewhere. And I want to put it in a network that's the safest. If Bitcoin would not be the safest, if there's something else, I would put it there. And that's what a lot of people outside of Bitcoin maybe don't understand. They say like, "Oh, Bitcoin is old technology. It's slow technology." No, it's safe technology.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have a fantastic guest, Robin, which has a wonderful daily Bitcoin podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Hi, Maurizio. Yeah, I'm doing really good. I took a small nap before because I woke up early today, and I have a podcast afterwards. I was like, I should get some rest in. So I just woke up like half an hour before, something like that. So I hope I'm clear with my mind, and I hope I'm here with my body and my soul, everything here.
Thank you so much. By the way, guys, in the comments down below, you'll find Robin Podcast. In case you're not subscribed, please do so, because you just spoken with Michael Saylor. But hold it, because we're going to talk about it. But if you don't mind, can you give us an intro and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I was starting with Bitcoin, I think, 4 years ago. I was coming in Bitcoin because I was the poor, like I was in stocks, I was in other assets. And then all of a sudden people came up to me and, "Hey, you're doing good in stocks. What do you think of Bitcoin?" And I always thought Bitcoin is a scam. I always said like, "Oh, Bitcoin, this is nothing. It doesn't produce any income. It doesn't produce anything." I also was not a big fan of gold or anything like that. But at some point I was like, okay, I ran out of arguments. Like people kept asking me like, what is this Bitcoin thing? And I was discovering that I really don't have any good arguments against it. That's the first one where I have to get my ego down and say like, okay, let's investigate why Bitcoin is a scam. Friday, I said like, oh, I want to know what Bitcoin is, and I want to know why Bitcoin is a scam. And Sunday, after like the 3 days of research, I was like, it might be something. Maybe Bitcoin is actually something worth investigating. And yeah, Monday I bought my first Bitcoin. Tuesday I bought a ledger. So like after 3 days of researching Bitcoin, I was going from it's a scam to it might be something. So my point is always like, don't push Bitcoin, don't push people to know your stuff, to get your belief, and just push people to ask them so many questions so they come themselves on the terms like, oh shit, I don't have enough arguments, I have to research. Because when people get educated on Bitcoin, when people get educated on what Bitcoin actually represents and what Bitcoin actually is, they will get behind that mission. But they usually don't get educated. They usually don't spend the time and actually research about that thing. And if we succeed in actually pushing them and pushing that conversation towards, they have to know about Bitcoin. The same thing happens in politics right now. Like Donald Trump has to speak about Bitcoin now and has to speak positively about Bitcoin because so many people ask him about it, and so many people in America are a essential group of voters for them. And if we keep asking our friends, our families, our politicians, our bosses, our whatever, we are asking them, "Hey, what's your opinion on Bitcoin?" We don't have to ask anything more. Like just like, "Hey, what's your opinion?" That's the push that we need for Bitcoin adoption. And that's basically what I did. I just asked myself, okay, why is Bitcoin a scam? I was discovering that Bitcoin, unfortunately, is not a scam. I had to delete my own ego and say like, okay, I was wrong. For 3 years straight, I said Bitcoin is a scam. Now I have to say to everyone, oh, sorry, I was wrong. Bitcoin is not a scam. And then it took me from the realization that Bitcoin is not a scam to I'm all in Bitcoin. In this year, I dabbled a little bit in Ethereum, I dabbled a little bit in other altcoins. But then after a year, I wiped my my t-shirts clean, and then I was like, okay, it's only Bitcoin. And I'm since I think 3 years all in, only in Bitcoin, and it's a great feeling if you only can contribute. Like if that's something that a lot of people don't get when they are in Bitcoin. When you have Bitcoin as your savings technology, nothing else, you can concentrate on creating something amazing. And you said before we started recording, to me, you like to use altcoins to get more Bitcoin. That's a fair game. actually works if you put in the work. But I rather use my time to just do something creative for the community, do something creative for society, for the world. And then what I get back from the world, I save in Bitcoin. I don't want to trade. I don't want to play the market. There's definitely money in that. Like, if you want to do that, that's fine. I am just like, I want to create something of value for communities. I want to create something better for society. I want to educate people. And then when I get something from that I can save then in Bitcoin. So I don't have to be the financial broker on the side when I do my education stuff. And that's what I hope to be the future also. Because when you're a doctor and saving lives on a day and you have 12-hour shifts, you should not come home and research about Solana. You should come home and just invest your money in Bitcoin and then be fine with it, and then spend your time with the kids, with your family, with your wife. I don't know, play chess with a friend, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. So like Bitcoin gives us that free time back, and that's why I'm so passionate about Bitcoin.
I love it. Thank you so much for the intro, by the way. I have never met anyone who has spent a decent amount of time in researching Bitcoin and they don't like it or they don't understand it. Like, the common answer is like, it's a scam because they don't understand it. But if you do spend indeed time in looking into it, like for real though, like read the Bitcoin white paper, Bitcoin Standard, a couple of books, watch some podcasts, go and follow Robin, for example, beautiful guests you have. But I wanted to ask you, why Bitcoin?
That's the one question that I get asked a lot. And the main thing is there is no other asset that cannot be manipulated. A lot of people in the cryptos feel like, there's that, the other cryptos can also not manipulate it, but they never really proved it. So when we go to Bitcoin, that's the only actually asset that we can actually rely on, that there is no government intervention possible. China tries it since 2013. We have so many, I got recently, I don't know about if you know the story of the founder of Xabo Bank, who orange pilled Mike Novogratz and all the big guys and founded Xabo Bank. He went ahead and he paid hackers, I think it was like 200 or 300,000 euros to hack Bitcoin. And a lot of people did that, especially wealthy people that went into Bitcoin. They paid people to test this stuff. Bitcoin is probably the most tested network ever. It's the most robust network ever. And that's the one thing where, like, back to the point that I made before, I want to have a reliable store of value for myself. I want to have, when the financial energy comes in on one side, I want to put this financial energy somewhere. And I want to put it in a network that's the safest. If Bitcoin would not be the safest, if there's something else, I would put it there. And that's what a lot of people outside of Bitcoin maybe don't understand. They say like, oh, Bitcoin is old technology. It's slow technology. No, it's safe technology. I want to have a safe technology. I don't want to lose my money. I don't want some fancy thing on top of Bitcoin that blinks and does video game stuff. I want a safe technology. I'm working my ass off every day. And for that, I get financial energy. And I don't want to be rug pulled. I don't want to be manipulated. I don't have anything done to my Bitcoin. And that's why I save it in Bitcoin, because there it's safe. That's the main reason. Put your money. There's always a saying when you talk to normal stock people and normal people in the financial market, they're like, you can invest in Bitcoin, but only invest the money in Bitcoin that you can afford to lose. No, it's the other way around. Put the money in stocks and cryptos and all the other stuff that you can afford and lose. And the money that you cannot afford to lose, this is the money you should put in Bitcoin, because this is the actual only safe place.
Isn't it funny when you talk to someone who has no exposure in Bitcoin, who has not done any due diligence, and you talk to them and you say, do you think your money are in the bank? Which one is more risky? The bank doesn't even have your money. You have to spend time in understanding what problem Bitcoin is trying to solve, and is solving beautifully, if you ask me already, because if you don't understand the problem, you won't be able to understand why Bitcoin is needed. And I wanted to ask you, I know the adoption is like maybe 2-3% as we speak, so it's really early days, but how long do you think we're going to need before a larger percentage of the people are going to start to adopting Bitcoin?
That's the one question that's probably the hardest to answer, but like there are two things to it. Like the first thing is like it doesn't really matter, because what else would you buy? What else would you do right now? So like, what's the alternative? Like if people ask me, oh, like what do you expect for the average return on investment for the next like 10 years on Bitcoin? What is the average yearly return? I'm like, yeah, it's fun to think about it, but honestly, what else would you do with your money anyway? So like, why compare it to anything? We can compare the past that we can definitely do, and Bitcoin is the best performing asset, period. But why do people adopt Bitcoin? Why do people go ahead and actually adopt Bitcoin? They have a need to know. They have some pain point. They have some problem. When we talk about El Salvador, why did they adopt it? Because they want to be sovereign. They wanted to be not dependent on the US. They wanted to have their own thing. They did not adopt Bitcoin because it's fancy or it's number go up technology. They wanted to be independent from the US. Why did MicroStrategy with Michael Saylor adopt Bitcoin? They had a melting ice cube, and Michael Saylor saw a major opportunity to turn a slowing down business back to a really profitable and really big business. Like the development of MicroStrategy is massive over the past 4 years. So whenever, or Trump, I also mentioned before, Trump needs the voters. He discovered Bitcoin for himself to get voters. He does not need Bitcoin for financial sense. He needs Bitcoin to win an election, and it's brilliant what he has done. There's so many examples of people that need Bitcoin, and then we are like, those are the high examples that everyone sees. But there are people in Nigeria that need Bitcoin on a daily basis, otherwise they cannot survive. There are people that live on the Lightning network and spend their Bitcoin there. Like that network grew so fast already, and it's in the works everywhere already. But everyone discovers it when there's this saying, everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. And that's very true. And it could not be more true, because if you are very wealthy, you don't need to know about Bitcoin right now. But you might feel pressured, or you might need to know in like 10 years, when your US dollars all of a sudden is like almost nothing worth, and your real estate is actually also going down rapidly in terms of Bitcoin. You see that real estate prices in terms of Bitcoin the last 10 years, they have been crashing. They have been crashing because of two reasons. The financial energy is coming from real estate to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin gets adopted. So like there are two factors that drive Bitcoin up and real estate down. In terms of Bitcoin, of course, in terms of US dollars, the real estate market is also booming, but everything is booming in terms of US dollars, even used cars in that sense. And I think there will be an inflection point, a trigger point where it will be so obvious that Bitcoin will be all of a sudden adopted massively fast. And there's this adoption S curves. You mentioned we are at 2-3%. It's really hard to figure out where we are exactly, but I think 2-3-4% could be accurate. There's this S-curve adoption. Then whatever the time is that we need till 10%, the same time we need from 10 to 90%. So this massive speed adoption will come after 10%, because then we are big enough. Right now we're not big. Like, we are really small in Bitcoin. We really go on the streets and ask people what the average block time on the Bitcoin blockchain is. They will ask you, what are you saying?
Yeah.
They will have no clue what you are even talking about. The average person has no clue what blockchain is, what Bitcoin is, what a miner is. When we are talking about miners, and we know those small computer things that we can plug in, but if you talk to a normal person and you talk to like, hey, what's a miner? Yeah, they are mining. They're like going ahead and actually putting some stones out. So like, we are really early. The mass population has no clue what we are here talking about and what we are doing. So whenever you're going out in your normal family or friend circles that have no clue about Bitcoin, you have to be aware of that. And you should not. Michael Saylor put this in my interview so eloquently. He's like, don't put your family on fire. And with fire, he meant Bitcoin. When we have this new revolutionary idea, which is really hard to wrap your head around. When you go in your family and you put it in your family face, like the fire, they will not understand. They will probably don't like you, maybe even for some reason. They're like, he wants to scam me. He's like in this pyramid scheme, and like, don't overdo it with the orange pilling. They will come to you if they really want you to be orange pilled, when they really have a need to know. You will know that. Make sure everyone knows that you're the Bitcoiner in your family and friend circles. I made really sure that everyone knows. And whenever the Bitcoin price goes up, people ask me how to buy. Whenever the Bitcoin price goes down, and people say to me, told you so. So that you have to live with that. But don't be aggressive. Don't be loving in your orange pilling.
This is great. And by the way, the answer is 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. You said it so well. Price is always the honeypot, right? People usually get into Bitcoin because they want to make money. But then at some point you realize one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And when you get to that point, it means you're on the right path, right? Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is the exit strategy. The question people ask me the most is like, when are you going to sell? Sell into what? You get to the mountain in so many different ways. All the people I have in my network, like proper Bitcoiner or people that have been invested, we don't think about 50,000, 60,000. We don't care, because Bitcoin is the exit strategy. Do you also feel it in the same way?
Yeah, 100%. I only see the price when there's a lot of price action and it's reported on Twitter from a lot of accounts, and then you see everything. But I really I don't know even if, like, whenever I check the price, it's because I want to make a tweet about it. But even that, I kind of don't do anymore. I just do my podcasts, and I also switched from copying a lot of memes to just putting original content out there. I came to the conclusion that the Bitcoin price does not matter. I came slowly to the conclusion. In the first place, I was like always checking the Bitcoin price, always going ahead and saying like, oh, what's the Bitcoin price? I was sometimes even checking the Bitcoin price multiple times per day, which is crazy because I'm just hodling. Like, why should you check the price that much? It doesn't matter anyways. But then I came in Bitcoin all in. I told you I needed 1 year to get all in Bitcoin. And when I reached that point of getting all in Bitcoin, then it really doesn't matter. Like, if you adopt the Bitcoin standard, if you say, my life is now determined in Bitcoin, my unit of account is Bitcoin, my store of value is Bitcoin, medium of exchange, unfortunately not. I'm mostly pressured or forced to spend the euro. Otherwise, I would also spend the Bitcoin if there would not be tax implications and all that stuff. All that besides, when you adopt that Bitcoin standards, all of a sudden you realize whatever free money comes in and you could put it in Bitcoin, you will put it in Bitcoin no matter the price. And then the price is really a secondary thing. You just have Bitcoin. If we have Bitcoin and Bitcoin will be at 10 million or 100 million or 200 million a coin one day, and it will be, why would you care if you buy now for 60,000 or 50,000? That's ridiculous. Like, if you know what Bitcoin's true potential is, and this true potential is basically unlimited because fiat will devalue as long as it is old. Maybe it will die someday, then it truly does not matter because all the money will be lost that you have in fiat. But even if it does not die, there's a big chance that I never see it die in my lifetime. Even if it doesn't die, it will fall in price every year with like 40%, 50%, 100%, 200%. Who cares about the price if you buy? And like, even when you see now 10 years in the past of Bitcoin, what was the price then? 10 euros, 100 euros? I have no clue what the price was in 2014, but it was not that high. Like, who would you care if you bought in $100 or $400 or $1,000? You made massive profits anyways, and you're way better off in investing it than not. So in the future, when you look back, you will laugh at how many times you looked at a Bitcoin price chart, and you will regret how many times you looked at a Bitcoin price chart and not how many times you looked in your girlfriend's eyes, or you looked in your daughter's eyes, or whatever you're doing, or being productive and spending family time. So make sure you touch grass, make sure you have fun in your life.
I've only had one solid comment, which was, I wish I would have bought more. I wish I would have bought more. And I tried the old rainbow. I tried trading. I tried to be smart. I tried to catch the bottom, catch the top, sell half. I did those things where you lose custody, and I lost a lot. I actually like to say I invested a lot in my learnings because it was a really different time. And by the way, I encourage people to play with this thing. Do your own due diligence, read, whatever you like to consume content. For example, I don't like reading books. That's me, as I'm, books are great, by the way, but I prefer watching podcasts or hearing podcasts. I absorb much more content for much longer. So whatever your system is to digest informations, go out there, get a wallet, play with this thing, try and send it, because at the end of the day, you got to get involved in this asset, I believe as well. And, there is no spoon, to quote, a movie a big fan of. So the price does not matter, but you probably have to transcend it, The most simple and effective thing to do is just dollar cost average. So you just decide how much money you are willing to invest on a weekly, on a monthly basis, and you buy this thing consistently. And every 8 years, you stop and you look at the price and you go, holy shit, this thing is going up. But I wanted to ask, how do you feel about the ETF? Because I know some people hate it, some people love it, because some people saying it goes against Bitcoin itself. What's your stance?
ETF is just another node. It's just another layer to Bitcoin, another player in the game. It makes the whole thing actually more decentralized. Think about it. When we have a set of players in the game, and then there's another one coming in, it makes the thing more decentralized. It makes the thing more diverse. There's now institutional money coming in. And yes, it's a great idea to have BlackRock in our sides. It's a great idea to have all those big players playing in our team and not against us. If all the big players are playing against Bitcoin, I don't know if it would be so great. I don't know if we would have such a great adoption rate. I don't know if the president would now talk about Bitcoin. I don't know if we would have the progress that we have now if we did not had all those amazing players in Bitcoin. It was necessary. Like, there are a lot of OG Bitcoiners, and I respect them, but they are also saying like, oh, it's not good that we have now institutional adoption. What did you expect? You expected that the best money ever will not be adopted by by institutional money, that the company will not buy it, that trust funds and pension funds will not buy the best asset ever. Basically, their job to find the best assets ever, and they will not buy Bitcoin because what? Of course they buy Bitcoin. Of course they adopt it. Of course there is an ETF. Of course there are companies involved. That's success of Bitcoin. That's not failure of Bitcoin. That's not, oh, now it's not the Satoshi vision. It's the Satoshi vision. It's the best money ever for everyone. Like, if we want the best money for everyone, this includes corporation, this includes the pension funds, this includes everyone in the game, not just the blabs. The blabs were first. Congratulations if you bought before 2020, because you front run every publicly traded company in every institution. If you bought before 2024, congratulations, you front run BlackRock and all the really big institutional money. And if you bought before 2020, I think 2 or 1, when El Salvador bought, you front run even a country. You had an advantage of buying. They have to buy now for a higher price. They get, as we said before, they get the price that they deserve. Guess what? When BlackRock puts in $200 billion in Bitcoin, this drives up your price. This gives you more financial power and more purchasing power. And yes, there will be things that, I don't know, like the Shanghai ETF or like China in general, like they're putting capital control onto Bitcoin. They're putting, they're like, you cannot take this Bitcoin out there. You cannot self-custody that. The first thing is fighting for Bitcoin to win. And the second thing is for fighting for freedom all over the world. I think that when Bitcoin wins, over time, more and more freedom will be unlocked in the whole world. Just because we want that China and all those places should be more free and should not have all those capital controls, that's not the same mission than Bitcoin being successful. That's what I want to try to say here. It's like you have to get Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is the mission that I'm on. If you are on a freedom mission and you don't want to have any capital controls around the world, if you don't want to have any bad rules for capital, no matter if it's in Canada or in China, that's a different mission. You can go ahead and revolutionize on the street. You're like fighting for the rights, but that's a whole nother mission, and it's a really big one. It's a revolutionary thing to do, and you can definitely do that. It does not kill Bitcoin if there are more people involved, and the more people are involved, the bigger Bitcoin wins. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't. They buy Bitcoin. They put their own values on Bitcoin, and then they say everyone else inside of Bitcoin also has to do the same thing that I'm doing in Bitcoin. They want everyone to only eat meat. There should not be one vegan in Bitcoin. There should not be anyone that is against that is before capital control, because Bitcoin is not that. And I agree. Yes, most people in Bitcoin are freedom-loving people. Also, not freedom-loving people will be in Bitcoin because the network effect will be so strong. It is the best money for everyone. Even for a dictator, it's the best money. And that's the great thing. When you want to have freedom and when you want to have people not having control over other people's lives, then Bitcoin is still the best thing. Because how are those wars funded? How are those capital controls funded? Those are funded by massive money printing. If you rip the money printer out of the governments, and I think Bitcoin can do that. I'm not 100% sure when. It could be in 1,000 years. It could be in tens of thousands of years. Could be in 10 years. I have no clue about that. I would love if someone has a model for that, but I have 165 interviews on my podcast, and no one had a good model for that. If you want to have a freedom revolution, a freedom thing, Bitcoin is the best chance to do that.
Who am I to block someone in purchasing the best asset? I don't care. It's like an onion. You can peel as deep as you want. And it's another way for them to access it. I don't think self-custody and Bitcoin are the same thing. It's like an ecosystem. You can choose what kind of floor or what layer you want to go down and dive into it. Like if you have a network which is designed for people without identifications, without corporations, well, it's never going to be adopted. I think sometimes we forget that we are Satoshi. Like the miners themselves control the network. Satoshi vision, in my opinion, was to create something for the miners to control. So that was the vision. So if tomorrow the miners decide to make 51 million Bitcoin, then it's going to happen. It's going to be a fork, right? So at the end of the day, this thing is out of the box. We can't control the gene. The gene is out. So if your contribution is to buy an ETF with BlackRock, great, go for it. I have no beef whatsoever in any shape or form on how you want to. My only thing, which I'm super, super, super vocal about, I have to be able to choose. So if you block me to do my own choice, I have a problem with. So if you say you cannot self-custody, well, then I won't like it, because then you are imposing me your view. But as long as everyone is free to choose however they want to store it, and by the way, the normal person or company, they wouldn't even want to have their own keys on their hands and the risk, and they forgot. Having someone who provides a service is also good for the network. That kind of base, when money is great, society flourish. And we've been given garbage like fiat, the dollars. I mean, if you go back into history, I think it's 120 years average for a global currencies. So we know it's not going to work. It's not going to work forever. And if you think about it in terms of energy, like you said so well, you go to work and you store your energy into a depreciating asset, aka fiat. So how do you fight that battle? You have to find an asset which is going to go up in value, not down in value. So what options do you have? What can you really own?
if Bitcoin is actually what we think it is, like if Bitcoin is actually the sound money that we think it is, and we think that it actually represents the sound money system, then it does not matter what anyone does with Bitcoin. Because if an ETF can corrupt Bitcoin, then it never was sound money. It never was the thing that we thought it is. So if you really think Bitcoin is sound money, it's unbrokeable money, it's like the money that will survive everything, then don't cry about an ETF.
Exactly. Let it be. Let the market decide. I'm super pro free market. Let it go. Like the genie is out. Let it become what it wants to become. We don't even know what we will have in 10, 20 years. I think Bitcoin now offers you that kind of position in the market, which is not very well known. Like you said, El Salvador has just gone in. They've been buying one Bitcoin every day, by the way, which is the most simple thing you can do. Consistently be there, show up, and buy up.
Most people choose to be slaves, if we put it frankly, because most people are comfortable in where they are, and that's why self-custody, I think, will never be a major thing for the general population. It will always be a small thing. I mean, there's also the restriction on the main layer where we can not have everyone self-custody there, because it will be just too expensive, and we have to move up layers above that with Lightning and so on. But even if we didn't have that restrictions, not everyone will ever be in self-custody. They will be somewhere in some Bitcoin bank. They will be in some layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5 technology, and they will be happy there. They have their numbers on the screen. If their number is going down because a hacker went in, there are some legal framework where their money is secured. They can call someone. There's a service guy there and helping them out. Like they need this comfort level. They need this full thing, and most people. That's why most people have a job and not going into entrepreneurship. That's why most people go the comfortable route with university and not go the hard route with like, oh, let's see what I can do and actually offer provide my services to the world in the free world. Because if you're just going to university, then do a job that is offered to you, that's you're providing a service, you're doing something. But if you really want to be free, if you really want to go out there and provide a service that only you can offer, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell a service of you. You have to sell a product of you, and most people don't do that. And that's the same reason why right now most people don't discover Bitcoin. Most people will discover Bitcoin once it breaks 100K, once it breaks 1 million, once it breaks 10 million, 100 million, a billion. So like most people come in way later, and unfortunately they deserve the higher prices.
Yeah, I agree. And look at banks, right? I remember when MasterCard and Visa came out, nobody wanted to use them. It's like, why do I want in my pocket a plastic thing? I want my money in my pocket, right? Try to give a 15 years old couple of €100 cash. They will hate you forever. So what am I going to do with this? I mean, you give me cash? What is this? Like, how do I manage it? Like, can you just send me a PayPal or whatever this they use? Can you just send me a bank transfer so that I can use it? They don't even value cash as much as it was back in the day. So we've done a proper 360. But I wanted to ask you, you've spoken with so many people and you had the top of the list, I mean, in my book, which is Michael Saylor. What was the most interesting moment for you when you spoke to him?
Michael Saylor is a really interesting person. He is extremely focused. Obviously, he is highly professional. He is a chairman of a really big company that he founded, and he grew up the company. There's like one thing in the recording that I found interesting when he talked about salespeople, when he talked about how to sell something and how to spread things with love and not hate. I totally agree with him there, and I loved that so much. And he gave a lot of lessons in there, even beyond Bitcoin, even for life in general. If you want to found a company, if you want to do something, so that was really interesting to see him. So he can definitely retire. He's now 59 years old, so almost 60. So he's also in this retirement age. He can go on his yacht. He can enjoy his life, but he chooses rather before he retires, he chooses to go on small YouTube channel like mine. He chooses to come on there and spread the word. He goes to conferences, spread the word. He goes on there and like he's not in it for the money. If you want to understand Bitcoin, you need someone to learn it from. And I related a lot to Michael Saylor when I got Orange Pill because I was a stock guy. I was this stock bro that always listened to the CEOs, and he spoke that language. And that's why I got Bitcoin with him a little bit in 2020 when he came in. And this was all the time when I came in. And he kind of got me to understand, okay, I need to dump my stock portfolio and actually get in Bitcoin more and more and more. But not everyone is like that. Some people are single moms and they are struggling with 2 jobs and the average kid. And then I have, for example, I had Danny on my show. She's also a single mom. She is way more valuable to that single mom that watches my podcast than Michael Saylor is. Because a single mom, let's be honest, cannot relate to Michael Saylor. It's just that there's no way she can relate to it. But another single mom, this is on my podcast and tells her story about her life and how Bitcoin helped her. That's how we get the masses in. So when you ask me, like, how can we accelerate that Bitcoin adoption, get the masses in, get the trigger points, the full mass adoption in, we have to get everyone on stage. We have to get the normal people giving them a stage and educating people. That's why I do it daily, because if I do it twice a week, it's harder to get all those great. I'm booked the next 1.5 months with every day a podcast already. There's so many great voices. People already ask me, "Hey, can I be a second time on podcast?" And I'm like, let's push it a little back, because if I put all the second, then I don't have the new faces. So like there's so many great voices and faces in Bitcoin. I'm so grateful for everyone that has their own podcast, who has their own show, who has great content in whatever way. If you're just making once a week a TikTok video about Bitcoin, that's amazing. We need you. We need those voices. No matter if you write a book, host a podcast, make free TikTok videos, make a YouTube talking head videos where you explain how to buy Bitcoin. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you talk about your passion. If Bitcoin is your passion, go ahead and talk about it. Be inspired and just get out and get your voice out. I hope I can have you on my show also.
Sure.
To hook you up and then you come on my show. I would love it.
It'll be a pleasure. But Robin, you've been an absolute gentleman. Thank you so much. Guys, remember, in the comment down below, you will find MR.M Podcast. And I'm going to link also the Michael Saylor interview. Almost 100,000 views, man. Let's go. Super well done. So thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, I hope we can push it to 100,000. It would mean a lot. Like I needed a long time to get to 100,000 monthly views, and now I have one video that might push to 100,000. But the behind things, the orange pilled people behind those views, that are amazing. And yeah, thank you for having me here. Thank you for hosting me. I'm new to being a guest. I've been on like 7 or 8 or something like that in podcast as a guest. I've interviewed 165 people or something like that. So I'm definitely more on the hosting side than on the guest side, way more. I'm loving it. Thank you for having me on and for giving me a stage here to talk about my Bitcoin story, my Bitcoin things. And I'm loving it. Thank you.
We'll be in touch, and thank you so much again, and have a good one, okay?
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.